Okay, we're continuing our conversation with Nancy David at Vaughn Elementary. We've been through overview of the challenges and the pleasant surprises of CCGPS, how you created your unit plans, and then we began looking at your sort of very specific lesson plans and specific assessments with looking at how you sort of transferred some of those sophisticated ideas of argumentative writing, expository writing, thesis writing, down to a level that was appropriate for first grade, introducing the concepts. So I thought it was fascinating because those concepts really did translate to those simple sort of fundamental expressions. Now, at this point in the process, you have talked about the boys and girls expressing an idea or an opinion, the difference between fact and opinion, and you've talked to them about what you're going to expect from the assessment, and you've been through the rubric with them in a very detailed way and looked at some of the verbs in the rubric that talk about what they actually have to perform.
We've unpacked a lot of those standards through that rubric.
And the standards that are attached to the rubric. So you've got your standards-based and your backwards design going on there. Now we're getting to the side of the process where the children are going to start producing. Now, I think that you said you begin this part of the process with a graphic organizer that assists them, and then some modeling. And this is, I had asked you about how do your kids take notes, and I think this graphic organizer sort of addresses that. So walk me through the process from the graphic organizer, the note-taking, the teacher modeling.
Well, we introduce a graphic organizer for every genre that we teach in writing. And so this graphic organizer we pulled off the writing agency. And it has 3 basic parts with an introduction, the body, and the conclusion. So we have to teach what those mean to them.
And you said this reminded you of?
And it does remind them of a hamburger. They call this the top bun, the bottom bun, and the meat. So we've taught them after fact and opinion that their introduction can be an opinion. So we practice those opinion statements, and then they can just jot down their thoughts about how they want to open their paper. And I have taken each part of this and scaffolded it in lessons, mini lessons, taking about a week or so to fill one of these out for the children so that they walk through it with me. And so we have our opinion statement here about the person that they're writing about.
So you actually talk to them about grabbing the reader's attention? And
we do. We say you want to get that person who is reading, get their attention, grab their attention and make them want to read how you're going to support that opinion. So we get a lot of statements such as I think Benjamin Franklin is cool. You know,
he was
cool. We all agree on that. So then we also teach them when it comes down to the conclusion, after they've listed facts, we teach them that the conclusion needs to tie back to their introduction statement. And a lot of times what they're doing is at the end saying, now do you agree with me that Benjamin Franklin was cool? Or now do you see why I think Benjamin Franklin was cool?
I see.
But inside, with the meat of it, they know that this has to be all facts. I do, as part of the scaffolding, provide them with 3 questions. What was life like as a child for this person? What are some of the important events that happened in their life? And what is he or she known for?
Well, what I can see from this is that they're going to have to be pulling evidence from the text.
They do.
And in every grade in Common Core Georgia Performance Standards, they're primary that you pull evidence from the text and you support claims.
Yes.
Either give facts for exposition or support claims for an argument in a persuasive piece. So you really have them sort of taking notes here. It's just guided notes.
It is. It's very, very scaffolded. And as they have more experience with it, we've been doing this now for about 3 weeks. And I have some students that can simply go take one of these and a new book and get started right away independently. And then I have other students who still need a little bit more support.
I think that's wonderful. It's so clear to me how this plants the seed for the child to gain sophistication every year in going to pull text evidence, but they're learning that that's where that evidence has to come.
They do, and they also have learned that taking the notes does not mean a complete sentence.
Okay.
We've modeled for them just putting down your idea that this is a tool. They will tell you that a graphic organizer is a tool for them, and that they use that to map out their ideas.
All right, so we've downloaded this graphic organizer for our users to use if they would like to. Now, you would begin with the whole idea of the gradual release of responsibility. You're going to begin with a model. So you modeled this activity for
We
them.
modeled this.
Do you have trouble with them wanting to copy exactly what you did in the model?
Some of them do. Some of them do. But others will start to think about putting it into their own words to kind of put their own fingerprint on it.
So you sometimes use maybe a different text or something
Oh,
for the model
absolutely.
so that you can avoid that. Because I know that's the first thing I would think of. That's the easy way out.
I know. And you have to watch for students who get a sort of an algorithm, if you may, of how
with
to.
the formula.
Right.
And even in first grade, we don't formulate
No.
essays, right?
No,
Okay.
no. And I had one student who was writing multiples. He loves this. And every one of his began with, I think the person is cool. I think the person is cool. So that was a teaching moment that we could use it with the whole class about, let's brainstorm some different ways as openings.
And even at that early stage, fighting the formula, and that while keeping the infrastructure intact.
Right.
That's brilliant.
Right.
Okay, so you modeled this. What would a teacher model look like? You just fill this in?
We just fill it in, I put it on, we have a poster maker, or if you have a whiteboard, an interactive whiteboard, put it up there so that
Or
you.
document viewer.
Document viewer also, document camera would work so that they see you actually do it, but the temptation might be for you to just do it all at one time. The
Right.
important part is breaking it down so that they have a deeper understanding of what you did
Okay.
each time.
You know, one of the things I noticed is that you had talked a lot about fact and opinion. I'm wondering, it just occurred to me, I saw the word detail on Scaffolding Organizer, extraneous information and important details. How do you attack that?
Luckily, the texts and the computer resources that we're letting the kids utilize with Pebble Go is very good about not having a lot of extraneous things.
Right.
If they try to put something in extraneous, it's usually their opinion about something.
And there's no
So-
teachable moment.
Right, so then I
looking
can
for
say,
evidence.
where can you find that in this text to support that as a fact? And they'll say, oh, well, that's just what I was thinking. And then they'll take it out and they understand then.
And that gives you another teachable moment to talk about inference, which is coming up in the standards.
We
as you
talk
go
a
there.
lot about that.
And a founded inference versus one that's just sort of seat of the pants. This is amazing to me how beautifully some of these really complicated ideas can be distilled and shared at such but it's still the paradigm that you want to communicate. I think it's
Just
great.
break it down and make it kid-friendly for the age.
Now, what are they going to do next? Are we done when this is filled out, or do they then write it into prose, or?
What they do after they've completed their graphic organizer is they take some writing paper and now they take their introduction, put it onto the paper, and take their facts, their details that they've added on the graphic organizer, and we've talked a lot about the construction of a complete sentence and how they can take that and put it into a complete sentence into their story.
So now you're incorporating grammar and language skills
Right.
as well. And I
Right.
assume that they're communicating with you and with each other, so you've got some speaking and listening going on.
Absolutely.
Do you ever do they share these things out or get up and
They
do
have an
speaking and
author's
listening?
chair time when they're done a lot of times. I can't say that I get to that every day, but we try to, and then the children offer compliments to the writer.
I think it's interesting to see how many standards you're integrating there. I can see it just in informal conversation. You've got them reading, taking notes, giving evidence for what they're reading. They've looked at these texts sometimes in multiple genres. You were saying
Right.
with the, going back a couple videos to the Wizard of Oz, they looked at film clips and they compared the film version and the text version. Wherein you said even some of the parents were very surprised at some of the very substantial differences between the text and the film. And so I can see just in looking at what you do in the course of a week, every standard being hit, and in here you've got that language, and then you've got speaking and listening, so it's really elegant, and I think very organic and natural the way that all the standards get together.
Flow.
Sometimes teachers will talk to us about how can you have so many standards going on at once. If you don't have one discrete standard on the wall that you're focusing on, how do you know that you've really mastered the standards?
Yeah.
And I know that you have standards-based report cards in your school,
We do.
which makes that even more challenging to make sure that you've
Yes.
mastered a standard. So we're going to talk about how you've made that work for you. But I think that we've illustrated amply here how easy and natural it is. It would almost be impossible not to integrate the standards in this.
Right, it can flow.
Now, when we talk in our next segment about the final stages of the assessment, I'm going to see a little bit about how the student work turned out in the final product.